Hey, y'all, welcome to the show. I'm so glad to have you. I'm your host, the Reverend Dr. Larry Macon. They call me Pastor Macon Sr. I'm at the Mount Zion Church in Oakwood Village, where I pastor now as senior pastor with two other senior pastors, and that is Senior Pastor Larry Macon Jr. and also Senior Pastor Daniel Macon and their family. So I'm glad to have you, glad you was able to join us on this marvelous show. We got some exciting things to talk about, and we've got an exciting guest here today. His name is George William, or is it William George? George William Reid, amen. George William?
Yes, sir.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Pastor.
We're glad to have you here. Did I get that right, George William?
Yes, sir. George William Reid III.
The third, all right. That means your grandfather was named George William.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, we call him Billy here. We shouldn't call him Billy. We should really call him George William. So, George, tell us something about yourself. Tell the audience, introduce yourself to this marvelous group of people who want to know, who is that man sitting next to Pastor Macon?
Well, I am happy and thankful to be a member of Mount Zion for over 26 years now, and I've been under the pastor's tutelage for that time. I'm also part of the pastor's staff here, and obviously we enjoy being here at Mount Zion. But prior to that, I was a member of the United States Air Force for 22 years. And also, after retiring from the Air Force, I worked for a consulting firm, did HR type work. So I've always been involved with people and helping people. So I certainly enjoy that, and I've continued to do that here at Mount Zion as well.
So, Bill, you have two lovely daughters, or rather three lovely daughters, and one grandson.
Yes.
Tell me, how does it feel to be a grandfather, and what is that like now? What do you have to do with this grandson that you have?
It's interesting, Pastor. People told me in the past that being a grandfather is a different feeling as far as being a father, and they were definitely right. With my grandson, I'm able to do a lot more with him than I was even able to do with my own children. Wow. I'm able to do things that he likes to do because I have the time now to do that. And so I really appreciate, I really enjoy it. It's actually better for me than it is for him. So.
Yeah, so they tell me that having grandchildren, I have 5 of them, and I'm enjoying them. And as you say, you know, when you have grandchildren, you probably would never understand what Bill has just said, and that is that you treat your grandchildren better than you treat your own children. And there's something that's just so enjoyable and loving about hanging around your grandchildren. You have a grandson. I have 2 grandsons now, and one of them is Michael Macon, and another one is Joseph Lawrence Macon, and little Joseph is only about 2 years old, but he acts like he's about 22, 24 years old. And I have so much fun with my grandchildren. In fact, last night, my 2 granddaughters stayed together. This is Sunday, just so you know, we're recording this on Sunday, and my 2 grandchildren, Tori and little Lauren, was with us all night. And I keep saying to my wife, whatever you do, don't bring them together. You know, bring them one at a time, because they were running all over the house. In fact, one of them was taking my house shoes and walking around the house with my house shoe on at 5 years, 6 years of age. And I said, oh my goodness, I'm not going to be able to do a message today. But we had a great services today. Now, your daughter migrated down to Atlanta, Georgia.
Yes.
And those of you who know Atlanta, Georgia, knows that there was a great migration during Hurricane Katrina, when many of the people from the New Orleans area either went over there to Texas and California, or migrated to Atlanta. And it is one of the most busiest cities in all of the United States. In fact, I used to go down there to Eddie Long's church. Was one of my friends back then, and I was also the chairman of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference here in Cleveland, SCLC, where Dr. King was the president, the first president, and it was an enjoyable experience going down to Atlanta back then and seeing naturally the King Center and other areas such as Auburn Avenue, where Ebenezer Baptist Church, his church, is located. Tell me, how does it feel going to Atlanta now when you get down there with your daughter, Bill.
Yes, it's actually a very enjoyable experience. I can go down to her home and open her refrigerator now and see what's in there and hold the door open, leave the lights on, those kind of things. But no, she's doing very well. She's an RN there in Atlanta. She works right midtown Atlanta, and we're very proud of her. She's always had that nurturing spirit. You know, she's always been helpful, always trying to help someone. So we knew that she'd end up in a field like that.
And what people don't understand is that nursing is a calling. I know when I go to the hospital and visit people, especially the emergency ward or certain kinds of wards in the hospital, I say to those nurses, I'm very kind to them, and I say to those nurses, you have a calling, and the calling is to help people in the kind of way you're doing, but everybody can't do what you're doing. And they sort of smile, laugh, and they continue doing what they were doing. And so it's great to have a daughter who is in fact nursing, and finally you don't have to pay the bill anymore. I'm sure you paid for college.
Absolutely.
I was trying to get her to go on and become a doctor, but she said her daddy probably is not going to pay that doctor bill. And that's not the same as a sickness bill either, right,
No,
Bill?
it's not. No, it's not.
That's great. So you was in the United States Air Force, and I believe you was a recruiter. Is that right?
Yes, actually, that's what brought me to Cleveland as an Air Force recruiter.
Tell me about recruiting and trying to enlist young men and women to join the Air Force. What was that about? What would you tell them if a person walks up to you today and say, well, you know, Mr. Reid, I'm thinking about joining the services. What would you say to that person, Brother Bill?
Well, as a recruiter, I would obviously make sure that they're qualified, make sure that they know exactly what the Air Force is going to expect of them. Now, as a civilian, I would first of all tell them, you have to, whatever you do, you have to go in with a plan.
Right.
You go in without a plan, you're going to come out with nothing.
Wow.
So you have to have a plan going in, goals that you want to meet while you're there. Whether it's 4 years or 20 years, you need to have a plan.
What would the plan look like? I mean, I would think that I'm going in there and I'm going to be shooting down folk or jumping out of airplanes or even pilot them. And so my plan is just to do whatever you tell me to do. So what would be a general plan that a person needs to think about before joining the Air Force?
Absolutely. First of all, you need to think about how I'm going to better myself while I'm here. I'm serving my country. Now, I need to better myself so when I do leave the Air Force, I'm in a better position than I was when I came in. Whether it's education, okay, or whether it's going into business or whatever, you need to know what you want to do. Now, the Air Force is probably one of the hardest services in order to qualify for, okay, to let you know. A lot of people are interested in the Air Force, but they don't really qualify for the Air Force.
Wow, why not?
So, well, first of all, the testing standards are much higher, first of all, right off the bat. Secondly, once you're in the Air Force is really big on image. So if you can't project that certain image that you project in the civilian world reflecting on the Air Force, you probably won't make it very long, okay? So they're looking at everything. They're looking at your family.
Okay.
If you're a married man, they're looking at not just you, but they're looking at your family, how you interact in the community, how you interact with other people. So that reflects the Air Force as well.
So you mean to say that you could deny a lot of people from joining the Air Force? And I don't mean to beg the question, but the truth of the matter is, you say that the Air Force is one group that will not accept anybody, et cetera, and it's the best group. I've heard Marines tell me the same story. So who is right, the Marines or the Air Force?
Okay, and that's a very good question. It really depends on what you are looking for and who you are, okay? I've talked to many people who thought about the Air Force, but really wanted to do more things that were more in tune with what the Marines actually do. Every branch has a mission, okay? And the Air Force's mission is totally different from any other branch. Now, the Marines have a mission, and the Army has a mission, and the Navy has a mission. But the Air Force's mission is really more of a support type role than anything else. What does that equate to? That means that when you leave the Air Force, 90% of those positions you have in the Air Force relate to a civilian position when you get out.
Oh, wow. That's very good. I always heard that the Navy was the easiest, service field that you could get into, because all you do is get on a boat and get on a submarine and go up under the water and have fun. Is that true or not?
I can't speak for that, but and I'm sure if there was a Navy person here, they would probably say totally different. But again, everyone has their own standards. Now, if the Navy is for you, that's fine. But any person who joins a branch of service and is not ready for what that branch is looking for, it's going to be difficult for you.
So, Bill, let me ask you this question. You know, when you joined the Air Force, was the Vietnam War going on?
Yes, actually, I came in 74. Vietnam ended in 75.
So we're thinking, and that was one of the worst wars as far as the killings and the kinds of things that were hidden from the nation until news reporters went over and said, hey, here's what's really going on with the Vietnamese people. In fact, Martin King decided that he wanted to go out against the Vietnam War, not only because it was economically unprofitable, but also because so many of the Vietnamese citizens and targeted, which should have been non-targeted, situation should have happened. But King said, no, it's happening there, and black men are going to serve their country, and when they come back, they're second-class citizens, and so therefore, maybe we ought to reconsider going. What about these times? Do you believe or think that someone should join the armed services during a time where, national security is at risk? Text mails and emails are open, and lives are being risked as it has been. What's the context of going to the services today?
Sure, and I understand that's a very good question. Obviously, today's military is totally different. It is different than when I was actually in. There are so many different things that are going on in the world right now that you have to really think about, because when you raise your hand and take that oath, you're saying that you're going to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. And you're also protecting the president, not the president, but the office of the president, okay? So when you do that, you have to think about, am I really willing to do this in light of what's going on in the world right now? But on the other hand, we have to have people in every branch of service, every walk of life, because if we're not represented, okay? If we're not represented, then we can't be represented anywhere else. So I think that we have to have people in the armed services. We have to have people in every walk of life, but as far as the branches of service, we have to have people represented in all the ranks as well.
Well, Bill, I was going to be drafted into the service when I was 18, and unfortunately, I was a minister. Though I say fortunately, so I can continue doing a ministry, and so that sort of exempt me from going over there and serving my country. So I've never been in the services, but I've always supported the servicemen, and such as you. I thank you for your service that you committed to this nation. But you said something very interesting. You got to support the office of the president. You've got to support the U.S. Constitution. You're making a commitment that you're going to be, I suppose, apolitical. How can you be apolitical or non-political in an environment that we're living in today? How can a man or woman do that? How do you do that?
And that is the challenge of every military person, because no matter who's in office, you have to support that office, not necessarily the person. For example, there is a rank structure in the military, okay? As an enlisted person, you are obligated to salute any officer that's above you, okay? Now, when you render that salute, you're not saluting that person, you're saluting that rank.
I got you.
So I don't know what you do personally, but I know you hold that rank.
Oh, that's marvelous. So tell me, you also are a musician. You come to church. You are a deacon elder at our church, and you help in any way you can. But I noticed that you don't never bring your guitar with you. Do you play the guitar or you don't play the guitar, Bill?
I do play. Yes, I do.
You played at clubs?
As a younger person, yes.
You mean to say you were a senator, Bill? You played at clubs?
Yes, that's how I made my money when I was in high school. So, yes.
You mean to say you went in the clubs and you're a deacon of a church now and you were hanging out with all the women and all of that kind of stuff?
Well, they say come as you are, but don't stay as you are. So, no, yeah.
So what kind of music did you play?
Mostly jazz, but some R&B. But then once obviously as I got older, I started playing more gospel, obviously. And but I played, guitar. I also played a couple other instruments, drums, a little keyboard. But in high school, that's how I made my money to buy clothes, equipment for sports, is we would play in the clubs. And sometimes we weren't all actually old enough to be in there to play, but we did.
Well, where did you learn how to play, and who is your mentor? Who is the person out there that if you had to play like them, who would that be? Like Little Richard or somebody?
Well, I play bass guitar, so I really like Stanley Clark.
Stanley Clark?
Yes. A couple others, but I really taught myself to play.
Oh, okay.
And I just basically sit down and figured out how I wanted to. So I read some music, but not a lot of music, but I play by ear.
Oh, wow. That's something that our schools are missing. When I grew up, we had to be a part of a music class, and not just a choir, but we had to learn musical instrument, and I had the flute because it was the easiest to carry home. Some people had the big trombone and all of that and drums and everything, but I had the little flute, and I learned how to play the flute. Our schools need to reconsider this kind of performing arts thing. Well, Bill, I would ask you to play a song today, but you don't have your guitar with you, so I cannot ask you. Now, you're married to your lovely wife, Carolyn, yes. And you got 3 girls, and you got a grandson, and you're doing well. How do you feel being retired? And that'll be the last question we're going to ask you. How do you feel, and do you think everybody ought to retire?
Well, I think everyone should have a plan to retire, yes, and not to retire from, but what to retire to. In other words, retirement doesn't mean you sit down and do nothing. Okay?
Right.
You retire to what you wanted to always do, but maybe didn't have the time to do it.
Right.
Something that you want to do, whether you got paid for it or not, that kind of thing. So I enjoy retirement.
Well, yes. I don't think I'm going to ever retire, because they say when you retire, you expire. And I'm not ready to expire. We're so glad to have you, William George Reid, of the Mount Zion Church. William George Reid is also a 20-year veteran, and William George Reid is also into human resources. I wish I could have gotten to that. If you're going into human resource, call at the church, talk to Bill, and he'll tell you how to get into that environment and that kind of job, and he'll tell you that if you're looking for a job, here are some kinds of things that you need to do in order to be successful in finding your job. William, Bill, I'm so glad to have you, and we're going to have to do this again. Again, we thank all of you for joining us on Faith and Flow, and we're going to talk about flowing in faith, and we've tried to do that even today by talking to Bill about his career, and we know that Bill flows into faith with Jesus Christ and God as an officer here at the church. Listen, y'all have a great day. Thank you for joining us. Whatever you do, look at our Facebook, Dr. Macon Facebook. Make sure you check our website, Mount Zion Oakwood, or mtzion.org, and check us out. See what we're doing. If you're ever in the neighborhood or not in the neighborhood, make sure that you stop by the Mount Zion Church outside of Greater Cleveland, Oakwood Village, or even give us a call at 440-232-2645. And if we can help you in any kind of a way, we will be there for you. God bless. Thanks again. Talk to you soon.